Coming up on today's show, a washed-up veteran actor takes on an unexpected role in the new horror movie, The Exorcism.
All kinds of messed up stuff happened when they were making movies like The Omen or The Exorcist. And the guy your dad replaced, everything's cursed.
Stay tuned. Welcome to Scary World, where we walk you through the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I am your host, Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
For those of you just joining us, don't forget to subscribe up above and say what's up down below. We have one major rule around here: no spoilers. Now that we got that out of the way, there are 5 categories: production, story, ensemble, horror, and legacy. Each category can score the maximum of 2 points.
Showtime.
Per IMDb, the synopsis goes: a troubled actor begins to exhibit disruptive behavior while shooting a horror film. His estranged daughter wonders if he's slipping back into his past addictions or if there's something more sinister at play. This movie was directed by Joshua John Miller. Miller does a great job with the execution of this movie. The artistic choices that were made behind the camera are brilliant and lead to a fantastic looking movie.
Well, yeah, I read about that. I mean, he was depressed. It didn't have to do with the movie, right? If you say so.
The cinematography was one of the highlights of this production, with all the shots being framed and composed for peak impact and effectiveness. Folks, I cannot praise the technicality of this production enough. The shots of these monologues and these characters are just so pristine and exquisite and just work so well with the story and the environment around these characters. I was really impressed by the shots of Russell Crowe during the monologues. There are some really nice shots of the camera behind a confession booth that just look really nice and help elevate the entire movie. You can tell that great care was taken with all these different shots, with all the different kinds of compositions in the scenes. There was definitely a thought behind everything that you see on the screen, and it comes off excellently. Joshua John Miller and his crew deserve all the kudos and all the flowers for what they were able to accomplish in this movie. Aside from the very awesome camera techniques, there is a movie production within this movie. Like in Late Night with the Devil, as we saw a TV show happening and the background of that TV show, we get the same kind of aspect here, where you see the back end and the behind the scenes of this movie actually happening. And it is very well done and very true of the essence of a movie production and of a major Hollywood production. I really enjoyed that aspect of this movie as well. And for the great technicality exhibited throughout this movie, all the great shots, all the great care taken in making sure that everything looks good on the big screen, this movie gets the maximum points of 2 for this category. They ensured that all the levels of production were executed at an elite level, and it shows on the screen. It elevates the story, it elevates the entire movie, it elevates the characters and the actors. This is what a great production does. The story and the script was written by M.A. Forting and Joshua John Miller. This was the same writing duo behind the very successful meta-slasher, The Final Girls. With The Exorcism, the duo successfully create a strong core concept and theme. Unfortunately, the horror elements take a back seat for the majority of this movie, folks. The spooks are mildly sprinkled throughout and are only truly showcased in the last act of this movie. More like the last 15 minutes of this movie. The horror portion of this film gets forgotten throughout the course of the movie because there is a stronger story here. The story between Russell Crowe's character, Anthony Miller, and his daughter, and their rekindling and their relationship, that is truly the story in this movie. It just so happens that there's horror elements here, but the horror only acts as a fancy accessory in this movie. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because we walked into this thing expecting a major horror flick. But folks, let me tell you, the story we have here is actually quite good and didn't really need all the horror hoopla behind it to really be impactful and prove its point. But because it does tip its toes into the horror pool every once in a while, you want to see more of that. Because when it is done, it looks pretty darn good. It is successful. So you expect that to be the case throughout the course of the movie, but the story takes a different turn and the elements of horror aren't really as heavily pushed throughout the course of the movie as much as the trailer would show. Which, by the way, the trailer for this movie does no justice to this entire story. But all that said, folks, there is a really good story here, but I do wish they would have finished the horror movie along with the dramatic story as well. You really want more of that spooky stuff because when it was done, as I mentioned, they did it well. And for the successful theme and concept of this movie, The Exorcism gets a 1 for story. There is something missing here, and it is the completion of the horror aspect of this story. I do feel that the story itself is strong enough to have survived without all the fantastical horror element because the script was that strong. But I did want some more horror if you are going to be kind of throwing horror in here, you know? The cast does a great job with their roles. The entire cast of characters are well developed and thought out. The actors all have great dynamics and really help elevate this movie. Russell Crowe is absolutely awesome as the protagonist Anthony Miller, and he gives an all-in performance and showcases those Oscar-winning acting chops. His daughter, Lee Miller, is portrayed by Ryan Simpkins, and she does a great job as well with this role. These actors have a great back and forth throughout the entire movie and really suck you into their drama. This is what really helps this thing keep rolling. This is what helps drive the story all the way till the end. This relationship, these dynamics between the father and the daughter. And I think both actors did a fantastic job with these characters and really anchored this thing down, knocked it out of the park. And for the excellent performance by Russell Crowe and the great support by Ryan Simpkins and the very good supporting cast and all the work that was done by this entire ensemble, The Exorcism gets a 2 in this category. I think this was one of the highlights of the movie as well. Along with the production, the ensemble did a great job of keeping me sucked into this movie. When the horror wasn't there, I was depending on these characters to keep me engaged, and that's exactly what happened because of Russell Crowe and because of Simpkins and their dynamics and Chloe Bailey and the rest of the cast. Everyone did a great job in this movie and really helped this thing be a successful film overall. There is very little blood and gore in this movie, and unfortunately, it is a detriment to the overall package. There is not enough care taken to weave the horror throughout the entire movie. The audience is left wanting more at the end. As I mentioned in the previous sections, they forgot to finish the horror story here. They started with the horror and they ended with the horror, but all throughout the movie, there was a lot of that element missing. And I think they could have injected a lot more of the spooks throughout the course of the movie, because when it was done, as I mentioned before, when this was actually done, it was done well and it looked good. There's actually one standout scene here that's super gnarly and well executed. It's later on in the movie. It's very impressive and very effective. And it proves why the movie needed to have more scares and spooks throughout. And for the minimal scares and spooks that we get throughout the movie, The Exorcism only gets a 1 for horror. Unfortunately, there was not enough of this, but when it was done, it was good. And that's why it is a shame that there wasn't more. This was a good movie, folks. The film was entertaining and most importantly, it looked great on the big screen. It did need some more horror to invigorate the slow portions of the story, but fortunately, the audience is treated to a gem of a performance by Russell Crowe. Yes, it did need more horror. I can't say that enough because it is true. That is the major gripe of this movie, and that is going to be the major gripe of what most fans have to say about this, that there is not enough of that horror stuff. But folks, let me tell you something. Walk into this thing with a clear slate. Expect a good story, because this is why we go to the theaters, folks, for a good story and a good movie. And this is what we have here. It's not the horror movie we expected, but it is the movie that we actually deserve. And for the surprisingly captivating movie that we got, The Exorcism gets a 1 for legacy. It did not have the horror that we horror fans expected it to have, but there was a good movie involved here. So to tally it up, The Exorcism received a 2 for production, a 1 for story, a 2 for ensemble, a 1 for horror, and a 1 for legacy, bringing its total score up to a 7. I am really happy how this movie turned out. I liked the fact that we did get horror elements throughout. I do like the fact that there was actually some stuff here going on and it wasn't just a psychological kind of thing. But this is exactly why it needed some more horror, because there was actually something going on this set. But all that said, folks, Russell Crowe, man, what an actor. What a great performance we get here. An unexpected great performance, especially because we didn't really know what kind of character we were confronting when we walked into the theater. But again, Russell Crowe is a constant professional and proves again why he is an Oscar winner. Go watch The Exorcism, now playing in theaters.
Can you tell me what time it is?
And that's a wrap, folks. Thank you for watching Scary World. Don't forget to drop a comment down below and hit the thumbs up on the video. And most importantly, do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have spoiler-free horror movie reviews for you guys dropping all week long. And we also have the official CorpseFeed podcast, The Morgue, dropping every Tuesday wherever you get your podcast streams. Go like, subscribe, and share. Drop some stars, drop some reviews. We would highly appreciate it. Go check us out on all the socials as well, because we are there. And go like, subscribe, and share once again. And don't forget to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel, folks. And this is where you will get all this beautiful video content in one place. We will see you next time for another episode. And remember, it's a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.